You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on WRCE. I'm Bo Henricks, and here's what's going on in Richland Center this morning.
I'm Phil Nee, and pleased to have in the studio the mayor of the city of Richland Center, Todd Coppernoll, back for another monthly visit. How you been?
Great. Good morning, Phil. As I say every month, I can't believe it's already been a month.
I know.
I can't. Welcome to my favorite time of the year as the world turns green out there, and I'm sitting here in shirt sleeves, and the weather forecast, they actually use the term above normal temperatures for the next 10 days. When's the last time Wisconsin got to hear that? And everything turning green. You hear the lawnmowers all over the neighborhood and see the people hauling the brush up to the landfill, and I love spring. I just love it.
That first cutting of the grass and that smell of the mown grass is just something, they should be able to bottle that up, right?
Yeah, and every husband, father, dad, man has to get that lawnmower ready himself. Get out of my way, that's mine, and I did. And I got to get out there. That grass is calling for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I went out and mowed, and half of the neighborhood was out when I was, and we afterwards, the neighbor behind us and we were talking for quite a while, laughing about how ritualistic we all really are. Spring comes, got to get that mower out, got to get it, and in November we'll do it with the snowblower.
Right. Hopefully not, but yeah, we probably will.
Right.
But as far as lawn mowing in Richland Center, is there an ordinance?
Yes, there is, and just a friendly reminder, it's spring, mow your lawn. I will hear, we will hear. If you don't, there will be a neighbor, and it just makes sense. If the neighbor's grass gets to be, looking like a hayfield, somebody's going to call, and they should. So please, could we avoid that? You know, if you have a property in the city and there's grass that you need to cut that grass. So could we just do that? And if you have a dog and you walk your dog off your own property, if you wouldn't mind actually cleaning up after your dog before we have to tell you to do it, that would be great too. There are people, it happens every spring, and it's really disappointing because you can't tell me if you have a dog that you don't know you shouldn't leave what it drops behind when you walk on. And if you have a lawn, you can't tell me that you didn't know you have to cut the grass. So there is this thing out there called No Mow May. Richland Center does not participate in that. The city has not passed that, so don't let your grass grow for the next month and then tell us you didn't know that, because that's not a thing in Richland Center. Okay, that's just where we are, not leaning on anybody, but everybody, we all do get, honestly, a little bit aggravated every spring when the calls come, because these are obvious things.
Right. I think some people will leave it a little bit longer, maybe, and that's all right for No Mow May. Let's maybe mow it at 4 inches instead of 3 or something.
And that's fine. A little bit longer for May is one thing. Not mowing it is completely something else.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Well, you have some announcements you'd like to make today.
I do. There's some things happening in Richland Center, a lot of hard work, and it's beginning to pay off. The Quick Trip on the east side, they're not demolishing the store, they're not building a new store, but they are remodeling and expanding the Quick Trip down by Walmart there. They're going to expand the kitchen and relocate. I haven't seen the layout zoning has, but they're going to relocate the gas pumps differently on the property. And then the big deal, though, they sell a lot of food items. All the Quick Trips do. If you just go in there and you see the lines all day long, and they're expanding that kitchen down there. So that's a multi-million-dollar expansion down there. And also in short order, I don't have a date, but we're getting close. We know that. And we're waiting on one more permit. The Taco Bell in Richland Center will be demolished and replaced with a brand new building in the same location. I did not just say Taco Bell is closing. I did say they will be demolishing their existing building and building a new building on the same spot, which of course will mean, it has to mean, and I don't have any details, but I don't know how you do that without being closed for a while. And I know when we told Henry Bray, he was wiping tears.
He was.
Taco Bell will be shut down for a time, I would assume. They haven't told me that detail, so when, how long, or if they're trying to find a workaround, but I don't know how you do that in a demolition. When we have the final details, we'll announce those too. But they've been working with zoning, and it's the first time I've seen like a state-approved plan with a Taco Bell logo on it. That was kind of a new one. So that's going to happen. And also, one of the new houses that was recently constructed, the one on Main Street, on the east side as you head north toward Allison Park, I think it's actually the last house before the bridge, is sold. You drive by there, you see the sold sign, and I don't know much about who bought it yet, but a local resident who first told me this was coming before the sold sign went up did have knowledge and told me it's a couple that's not from town that's relocating here. So some fun stuff going on in Richland Center right now. Some expansion, progression, and new things coming.
Very much so. I had heard about the Quick Trip expansion, and again, that's a very, very busy spot there. They both are, but it seems like the one out here by Walmart is extremely busy for no bigger than it is.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they would like to build a bigger store. I mean, you see that they bought, for those of us who can remember back when, the small motel, the Restwell Motel that was there forever, and the used car lot Norm Hillesheim had operated for so long. They own those properties, so I could see that there was likely to be some expansion. I don't know if there will be a day when they just replace the store with a different store, but for the moment they went with expanding what they have. And yeah, I mean, look at any Quick Trip. The two in town here do great. They do better than average even for Quick Trips. These two do. And I say a lot to my friends, any 16-year-old that can navigate a Quick Trip parking lot at lunchtime should just be handed a driver's license because you're safe.
That is true. I had heard different rumors about the one downtown, but somebody told me it's top 10 as far as sales in the state. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know it for sure to put a hard number like that on it, but I do know it does really well. I just don't know where it ranks exactly, but far above average. If you just watch the trucks that come through town, it's funny, how people worry sometimes that there are not food options in town or outlets to buy food. And I'm not telling anybody, so stop it out there. I'm not telling anybody we wouldn't welcome another grocery store. That's never been true. We would, under conditions that don't hurt the city financially, we would absolutely welcome another grocery store. But when you watch how many trucks of food come to the Quick Trips, come to the Walmart and so on, it's a great deal. And that downtown one, it's always busy, but the Quick Trip by Walmart, you drive by it. On my way to and from work every day, I know what I'm going to see. Three things I will see. A line in the Culver's drive-thru every day, a full parking lot at Walmart, and a full parking lot at Quick Trip. It's going to be true every day coming in on that end. So great deal of traffic down there.
You mentioned Taco Bell as well. Any word on, with the new building, is there going to be another restaurant involved? Because I know KFC, they took that line out, but I'd heard the rumor that maybe they were going to bring in another franchise with them.
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know right now is they're tearing down what's there to replace it with a new structure on the same lot. That's pretty much all I have. But they called me. It might be a full year ago. It's close anyway. A gentleman called me and asked me who they needed to talk to here about permitting and said they wanted to replace the building. So I handed it off to zoning because that's where that goes. And I kind of forgot about it because I didn't hear anything new. And then over the last couple months, they came forward and pushed it, and here we go.
Construction season now. Certainly there are a few projects in and around the city.
Yes, definitely. And we'll be working. This really shouldn't obstruct traffic flow, but there's actually a wastewater pipe that is visible, if you know where to look, in the Pine River as you head north toward Allison Park. And we're doing a project this year to bury that under the river. It's just to keep things safe and make sure we don't have any issues going forward. That I don't have a start date, but that project's been approved by city utilities. We'll be doing that. The Panorama Estates, I'll be calling them again today. I last talked to them 2 weeks ago today. They need to come down and get their permits, but my last conversation with them, we're excited. We're ready to go. I know they've had their first piece of equipment up there for a little while now, and their agreement with the city states that they will break ground no later than June 15th, so there's still about 5 or 6 weeks in there, but we're getting there. So we have been in touch. They need to get down, get their permits pulled, and then we'll get going on that one.
And this is getting into the season. We're going to be seeing some parades, a Memorial Day parade later, Rodeo Dairy Days parade happening as well the middle of June. The rodeo.
Yeah, this time of the year, there's a million things to do out here. There just are, and there you go, 1, 2, 3 parades and all the different events that you see through town. And I see people back out having fun again. See a crowd at the Starlight 14. See a line at the Dario. Signs of spring, right? And the parade permits come in a flurry. because you just like right away, right after Memorial Day, you just go a couple weeks and it's time for the rodeo, and it's now off you go. We're getting the aquatic center ready. That of course doesn't open for a few more weeks, but getting that ready to go. And you see a lot of people out in the parks. The soccer fields are full and so forth, and I love to see it. Get out and have a good time. Spring has sprung.
Indeed. We always talk about, I know it's kind of out of your realm, but the campus location, anything new on that regarding or in relation to the city?
Not to me. Not really. I was in a joint meeting that Dave Turk, I had both the county board chair and the county administrator in a meeting that I attended Tuesday night, and we touched on it, but it was basically that conversation kind of went, well, we're on top of the next meeting of the reconfiguration committee, and we'll go from there. But I'm staying in the loop as best I can while the county works through what is obviously a giant decision out there. Don't know yet what's going to happen with the campus property.
Did you play in the alumni basketball game the other day?
I did not. No. I did not. What a weird thing. When I was young and fit, I didn't play. Yeah, they saw to that, actually. I was locked in a room until after they'd picked the teams. I don't know what that was all
about. One other blast from the past, back in your era, the Richland Center track team won the state championship in 1983. They were recently honored.
Yeah, the Sting Night. So a bunch of new inductees into the Richland Center High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And congratulations to everyone who was honored. And I'm going to give a little personal shout out to two new honorees because I know them well. The first one I'll do quickly was Mr. Greg Vitesnik, who is now in the Athletic Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Greg. And the 1983 Richland Center High School girls track team, and I remember this like it was 5 years ago, and suddenly it's not.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they were the first team from Richland Center High School to win state, and I remember when they did. And Kim Tiller and Melissa Dobiash and Nan Shuskis and Audrey, I think her last name was Kramer, German exchange student. Mm-hmm. Sarah Lau, I don't have all the names. Jill Stibbe, Jolene Switzenberg. I'm sorry to anybody I might be missing. I don't mean to leave anybody out. I just remember I knew these girls. You know, I was a sophomore in high school when that happened, and I knew every one of them pretty well. And they went down there and they won. And the relay team, as I recall, clinched the deal by winning. Coming in first down there and brought back the first ever first place trophy Richland Center High School ever had for a team. And so that team was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. And some of them still live here. I think Jill just ran another marathon.
I think so.
I think
Boston Marathon.
I think it was. And she never stopped. Also, another woman in town who I know is still an avid runner, Patty Wheelock, back in the day, Ted's daughter, is still out there running all the time too. All the time. And so that era produced, on the girls' side, there were some guys who could run too, but on the girls' side, man, Jolene Switzenberg was an amazing distance runner. She was. And so was Jill Stibbe, so was Denise Stibbe, so was Patty. There were lots of them. Therese Burns, there were a lot of them that could really do it. And then the sprinters, my sophomore year, I walked into biology class taught by Hans Andreessen, and there was this kid I'd never met named Kim Tiller sitting in the back. And they used to do a game called the Powder Puff flag football game for girls during homecoming week. And I didn't go because I was actually in a sports practice myself. But Kim Tiller had turned Hans Andreessen's head. He saw her running the ball past everybody for touchdowns, just outrun the whole field. And he brought it up because he didn't know her either. And he said, Miss Tiller, I'm impressed. And I remember half of the kids knew this about her, and they started talking about how well she ran. Well, indeed, she did. She won state several times in track events and at least once in a gymnastics event, just a natural athlete, but just a running ability. They're one of those kids that if she gets a step on anybody, it's over. And she's was a key ingredient in that team, but there were lots of other ones too. And it's just fun now to be here at this point in our lives and to have them get these honors that really are long overdue, to be honest. But I love the accolades for the people that earned them here in Richland Center.
Sometimes in some sports, people will say, well, that was back then, the competition. But Kim Tiller, to my knowledge, still holds a state record in one of those events.
See, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think she still holds it, set in 1985. So that's a long time ago.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, Phil, I graduated in 1985. Our 40th class reunion's coming up in late July, and we'll all talk about who needs a knee done and who's on blood pressure meds, We used to talk about staying up all night, we're going to go to the high school dances and part. Now we're like, I got high cholesterol and I got cataracts and all that. Yeah. It has happened.
Right. Yeah, because my 40th class reunion, we were home by 8:30.
You're right. We were Tell those kids to turn that music down.
Good stuff. Some other things you want to talk about today, Mayor Todd?
Well, just rolling through. So we will be appointing the council will be appointing a new older person. Again, we talked about this the last time I was on. This is in District 3, which would be Allison Park, the neighborhood kind of around the cemetery there, the mobile homes out by the fairgrounds, and then sort of down to the St. Mary's Church area. That we had a resignation, and we've got multiple parties that have expressed interest. Anyone who does have interest, in being appointed, let me know, 608-604-5399. And then tomorrow night at the city council meeting, the council will appoint someone. And there's about a year left on that term.
Okay.
Yep, so that's coming right up. We'll do that. And then we're just heading into, I pushed it a little bit at the last council meeting about the city budget process. It's not easy, and it got more complex last year, and certainly will be when we get to the fall this year, and we're working on the 26 budget. Just imagine for yourselves, in your household, think of the inflation run-ups of about the last 4 or 5 years, and imagine for yourself, think about the city tax base. We trying to keep up with that. It's just been the first time in 40 years we got a red-hot inflation for multiple years like that, which has put the same stress on the city budget it put on every household budget. So the council's going to have to, and myself and the city administrator and all of our department heads, work together, keep our heads on this process, and work through a more difficult budget process than we'd had to do for a while. I mean, the city, if our folks out there had been looking at their property tax bills, the tax rate increases from the city have been tiny for the last few years because we haven't needed to. I didn't say property taxes didn't go up. I said the amount the city increased had been tiny in recent years because it has been. And we're trying to keep it that way. But to do that, we're going to have to balance some things. So what do? Do we have to cut something? Maybe. And what do you cut? Well, okay, that's no fun, right? I don't care what the answer is. That's no fun, and somebody won't like it if you do that. And if you don't do that, where does the new revenue come from, right? It's the constant balancing act, just like in your house. If the furnace goes out, you got to get a furnace. There's not a choice, so how do you pay for that? Okay, those kind of decisions at the city level. So I actually attempted to appoint the entire city council to the finance committee, so that all 8 of them were involved in the entire budget process this year. All 8 of them always vote on it, but the finance committee is typically comprised of 3 older persons who go through multiple meetings with the administrator. I'm there too. We bring department heads in and work through what we need to decide, and then the budget is written, proposed, and the entire council gets a chance to review that and ask questions and vote on it. And I just thought, I know this is a little different time now, so let's have all 8 of them in. Council did not approve that, so what I did is I appointed 3 again. But what's going to happen starting tomorrow is that we will be discussing kind of the finer points, broader points of the city budget process in the council meetings, so that all 8 of the older persons have as much information as we can get to them, I'll say it that way. And no one resisted that. Let's be real clear here. We talked about that at that last council meeting, and all of the older persons thought that was a good idea because they understood what I was going for. They just didn't want to change the structure of the committee, and so we didn't. But we are going to be talking about things like this. Which things are mandated by the state to be paid for by the city? And I'll give you 2 great examples: police and roads. Streets. Okay, obviously you must pay for those things. Where does funding come from? And people say property tax. Yep. Is that the only source? No. There are multiple. So what are they? And what sort of shape are they in? Have there been any reductions? The answer is yes, by the way. last year in a couple of those, which also led to where we are. And the city's okay. The city's in a really good financial position, so don't get alarmed out there. That's not the point. The point is to keep the city in a strong financial position while we go through real challenges brought on by red-hot inflation and a couple of instances where some of the revenue streams the city gets were reduced. Well, you put those two together, it doesn't take a genius. Something's got to give. So we're going to work through that. Again, it's nothing to be alarmed about. This is myself, the administrator, the city council, and soon our department heads trying to be proactive. And everybody agrees. Everybody understood, and I want the people to know that. Everybody understood and agreed that we need to work through this together. So tomorrow night, we'll be talking just an introductory level, a little bit about the city budget during the council meeting, and then each council meeting for the next several months, there'll be another topic related to the budget that we'll go through publicly at the council meetings.
What is the timeline to have that 26 budget complete?
Yeah, it typically gets approved right around the 1st of December. What you have to do, the administrator, a big part of why an administrator was hired was to oversee the budget process. And so Ashley Oliphant, our administrator, will meet with each department head and work through their challenges, the things they think they need, again, how much money is available, the whole, just imagine for yourself what you'd need to do. And then bring proposals, this is where we are in this department, this is what it looks like we're going to need, to that finance committee. And that comes up in multiple meetings with finance, and then in, say, late October, early November, 1st of November, then there's a draft of the budget that gets approved. Then you have to run these things in the Observer. This is state law. You have to let the public know what your intentions are with the budget. You can't just vote on it and say, there you go. You let the public know what the intentions are, and then usually a special session somewhere around the first week of December, then the council votes to approve the budget. If there are any amendments, those are made then too. Budget gets approved, and that's so that the property tax bills can get out on time. So you kind of don't have much more time than that. Okay, and it's been done very well. I mean, we've had a good process and good people for a long time, the whole time I've been down there. And I'm proud of that, but we want to keep it that way. And again, this is just an attempt to stay ahead of the curve a little bit, stay ahead of the potential bumps in the road, because it's just simple economics, simple math. The bills went up a bunch. Ooh, the money didn't. Okay, now what? Okay, and now what needs to be asked before you vote? Like, you don't ask that at the night of the vote. And that's what we're all doing now. And it's the third time I've said it in this, but that's because I know how the rumor mill works. Nobody disagreed with that. The city council didn't disagree. The administrator doesn't disagree. I haven't had a department head tell me they disagree. The only thing the council didn't want to do is go with me on putting all of them on the committee. So we said, instead of that, let's do this. And we'll be discussing the budget with the entire council in steps for the next several months at the council meetings, so that any questions can be asked months in advance. You don't, as an older person, obviously, you don't just have to ask a question at a council meeting. You can go down and see the administrator anytime you want. You can ask me anytime you want. You can ask someone who's on the finance committee anytime you want. And they all know that. And we've got good people representing on the council. We've got good city employees dedicated to doing things the right way, and I'm not worried. I'm just making sure we do it right.
If you had a crystal ball, it would be a lot easier, because, your salaries need to be looked at, cost of living and things like that, and just so many pieces to the puzzle.
There are. The cost of living, what the benefits cost, just ask any business owner how expensive health insurance is now. It's critical. You have to. Who would work at a place that didn't offer? You can't, right? So we have to have competitive wages, competitive benefits, and so forth. And then again, which things does the state mandate? Because I just said it correctly, the state mandate. That means the city doesn't have a choice, and it shouldn't. No kidding. We have to provide police. Wow, imagine that. Can you imagine a world where we didn't? And that's fine. But then, we just did a new contract with the police union. or that took effect at the first of this year. All right, and you have to be competitive there, or your police work somewhere else. Right, that's just part of it. And then in the meantime, somebody says, wow, it's more expensive to run all our vehicles now. Vehicle repairs are up, parts are up, gasoline is up, whatever, just like you would do at home. It's no different. It's just a broader scale because it's citywide, not just one house at a time, but it's the same exact idea. These are the things we have to buy. These are the things we want to buy. This is the money we have. Everybody get together, figure it out. And we will.
It's similar to, I've had several district administrators in here. The school situation is kind of the same thing, isn't it?
It's very much the same. I know this sounds negative, and I really try not to, but it is frustrating. The referendum parade, which is never going to end. A state law has put, for the same reason, everybody, every school district, every county, every city, townships, everybody is dealing with the same issue. Costs took off, and not a little bit. Just blew up. We know that. Everybody knows that already. Okay, but revenues didn't double in the same time period. So by state law, if you need a bunch of money, you got to go to referendum. You have to. And this isn't a Richland Center thing, and this isn't a Richland County thing. The city of Madison passed a $22 million referendum in the last year. You see referendums in Reedsburg and in Baraboo and in just about every school district you've ever heard of. Multiples by now there, and some counties now too. Because that's what the state prescribes, right? That's how you have to do that. And that was the idea behind that law, is to be fair to the people, to have local say rather than just the state telling you, to have local control over some of what happens with your taxes. That part does make a lot of sense. Then when you get run-ups in inflation like we've had, which have been pretty crazy, honestly, pretty much in every category, what choice is there? It's cut things or find the money. Well, and to find the money, you have to go to referendum. It's tough. It's wild. I'll watch the election results. And you'll see it again in November. There will be the results for the big whatever's up, senator this or state office that. But watch how much time the reporters are spending on referendums now. That's the reality of things right now. And that's not going to stop anytime in the foreseeable future. It can't, because that's what the law prescribes in Wisconsin. And with prices where they are on everything, that's the option you have.
Mayor Todd Coppernoll, our guest here, as we talk about things concerning the city of Richland Center and Richland County as well. And we'll be back with more in just a moment. Our morning show continues here on WRCO, talking to Mayor Todd today about all the things in the city of Richland Center. Lots of positive things going on there. Sometimes, you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
But there's more good going on than bad. Man.
There is, and we've mentioned several fun new things already, and we want to get into some more. And I know sitting down here talking with you during the break, we touched on that. There's been a lot of things. It's spring, so old things coming back out of the shed and new things popping up. So the farmers market will take place for the first time of the season this Wednesday downtown on Orange Street. It's on the lot next to the Quick Trip. Phil, what is the hours again? I apologize.
1:30 to 5:30, and they might even stay till 6.
Okay, 1:30 till they leave.
Depending on how the clientele is and if they're still busy, and that's what I've been told.
On Wednesday,
Yep.
And then today, I got a call asking me to be downtown at Los Amigos at 3 o'clock today. So immediately to the north of where you think of Los Amigos. Los Amigos has expanded now, and they've added a party room where back in time, I think that's where Creative Outlet was, and when I was a kid, that was Nor's. But it's a nice expansion for Los Amigos. They came to the city. We worked with them on a state grant to help fund that, get that done, and they're expanding, and I've been asked to be there today at 3 o'clock. So if you're in the area, come on down, and congratulations to everybody affiliated down there. They put a lot of work into their business here in town. It helped together with a lot of other businesses and helped bring some new life back to the downtown. And now the expansion, which should be fun. There'll be a lot more seating in there. And if if you have an event, they'll have what they're calling the party room down there, which sounds like a lot of fun to me. Good for them. So farmers market back, expansion opening up at Los Amigos. Good stuff in Richland Center right now.
Yeah, the Los Amigos expansion, I had a chance to just look through the window yesterday, and it looks like nice and roomy and going to be good use for the community, isn't it?
Yeah, they took me on a tour. Actually, the lieutenant governor, Wisconsin's lieutenant governor, came out last year, and Marty Richards and I walked her through town with a few other of her aides, and a state trooper came along. And one of the places we took her was there. To see that, so we got to look at the condition of that space before they started, what it was, and it's an old building, right? It's like a lot of downtown, like late 19th century, I'm guessing. I don't know the year exactly on that one, but it's an old building, and they had these great ideas and plans, and the excitement was there. Well, today we can see the finished product.
Mm-hmm. Today at 3, you said.
Today at 3 downtown on Main Street. Just get down to Los Amigos.
All right. Yeah, they've had a great run there, and continues to grow. And electric vehicles. You wanted to touch on those.
I do. What I really want to do is talk about our fire department and how that electric vehicle expansion and increased sales, increased use may affect or does affect them. And this is for the public's knowledge, because I think most people don't know this. This is not meant as a critique of electric vehicles or a criticism. But we do need to make sure the public understands that it's still a new technology, and I try to envision what it must have been like when gas-powered cars were new and were kind of a novelty, and for rich people, and most people were never going to own one, and we saw where that went. And I think back to the early 90s when a friend of mine paid $3,000 for a laptop computer. This is $3,1992 for a laptop computer that nobody else was buying because, oh my gosh, those things were expensive. And now we all have a phone in our pocket that you can access any continent in the world right out of your front pocket. So I don't know the future of electric vehicles, but I know the present as it relates to the fire department, which is the message here, solely intended to inform the public of what goes on when and if there's a fire with an electric vehicle. Our fire chief, Scott Gold, let us all know at the last fire board meeting that a gasoline-powered vehicle fire typically takes about 50 gallons of water to extinguish, whereas an electric vehicle fire takes about 8,000 gallons of water to extinguish. I don't even have the details why I get Scott down here. He'll tell you. Okay, again, new technology. I'm not saying it'll always be that, but it is that right now. So there are companies out there that have come up with these blankets. This makes sense. These blankets that are designed that you drop them over the top of the burning car and it suffocates the fire. It takes the air away and the flames extinguish. The issue, again, I can remember when a VCR in 1980 was $800 or $1,000 and a single blank tape was $20, and we got to the point where none of that was true. So again, I'm not trying to disparage electric vehicles here. A blanket to extinguish a fire today on an electric vehicle, I'm told, costs $2,500, and it's a single-use product because it gets some damage from the fire. So you use it once for $2,500. I'm not telling people not to own electric vehicles. I'm not telling people to speak poorly of electric vehicles, nothing of the sort. I'm making sure people understand the associated costs at this point that go with fighting fires when and if you have one, because it would be irresponsible of me not to tell the public what our fire department that we're all supporting deals with when they get a fire with an electric vehicle. I'm saying that now publicly because it's obvious that as the future plays out, there will be a lot more electrical vehicles around, not fewer. I believe, like other technologies, they'll probably improve, become more efficient, less expensive. We've seen this time and again as new things came in. But right now, today, this is a real thing. So when it's time to support our fire department, I hope you will. You always do. Our community's been great to our fire department in ways that just blow my mind. We've had entire vehicles donated for free at times, and all the gear, and people come to their fundraisers and do all these things. But again, I went into city budget stuff pretty heavy on this show. The fire department is separate from the city budget. The city contributes to them, but it's not our budget. It's the fire district has a budget of its own. These things are expensive and they're necessary now. That stuff happens all the time. There's equipment for other things that the fire department, the police department, and so forth have had to add as time passed and new challenges showed up. Well, that's the kind of the latest one down there. And the two concerns, one, I want to make sure that our fire district remains adequately funded, but much larger than that even, I want to make sure our firefighters are safe. Wow, these guys work very, very hard for all of us. I know that most people living here just have no idea how many calls these guys respond to and the variety. They're out there assisting EMS, lift assists where people, they're out there directing traffic after vehicle accidents over and over again. A deer hunter falls out of a tree stand, it's going to be firefighters showing up with a UTV to get them out of the woods and make sure they get the help they need over and over again. There's just the number of calls our fire district responds to has grown exponentially over the last few decades. It's one of the largest. Our fire district covers 310 square miles. I'm not sure. It's either the largest or second largest area that any fire district covers, and they're doing a great job. They do it with about 48 to 50 firefighters, depending on when you ask me. And these people are just selfless. They just give. They show up. They do it, and they deal with trauma. You know, you go respond to someone's house burning down. Go respond to a tragic car accident. What are you dealing with? And those things live in the minds of these people that show up. And there are some recent retirees out there that were long-termers in the fire department that have shared their stories of the scenes that they encountered. And some of them, it might be 20 years ago, and it's still right there for them. So thank you to our firefighters. And the whole point of this story about electric vehicles was not limited to the fact that they burn and they're expensive to fight. It was so the public knows the needs of the fire department constantly evolve, and they are doing so again, and that we need to make sure, just as we should with our paramedics, with our police, with anybody that's out there when the circumstances are dire, to not overlook them, to not assume them and just figure that they're going to come and get us. Say thank you. Get to know them. You can't operate a community without police, fire, ambulance. What would you have? You'd have chaos. And we don't have chaos because we have wonderful people in police, fire, and ambulance. So please, when you can, help them out. When you meet them, say thank you. If they do an open house or an event, walk over and say hi and get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, sometimes you just take for granted that there's always going to be someone there when you call. And there have been stories around the state where somebody calls for an ambulance and nobody responds. I mean, that's a cold, hard truth, right?
And in some major metros, I mean, in Milwaukee, there have been times when they have said, you might have to help yourself. Mm-hmm. If you call with a home invasion, the police will not get there. They'll come as fast as they can, but think of the territory they cover and the circumstances they're dealing with and the volume of calls and so forth. Yeah, we don't have that here. We haven't had that here, and we should all be grateful for that instead of just assuming it. And I just tip my cap, right, to all of them for what they do. It is pretty miraculous. At how much of yourself you have to give to do the things they do when you consider how critical the needs are. It's fire, it's ambulance, it's police. What would you do if you called for any of the three and they just weren't there? What would you do? And you don't have to worry about that here because we have wonderful people who make sure you get what you need.
One of the great things that makes it great to live here. Absolutely.
It does. And I know. Sometimes people get frustrated because the big towns have more stores than we do. You can order a pizza from 9 different places. I understand. I lived in Dane County for a long time. I lived in Rochester, Minnesota, and La Crosse. I know the difference between metro and rural. I know. But never lose in your own minds the value of a small town, of people that will show up. That's the best example I can give. People that will show up and help you. They probably know you because it's a small town, but even if they don't, they're still there, and you can count on them. In the story, I hear these stories all the time. Something happened, and somebody had an issue with this thing and they called that person and they came right over. That's the value of a small town, is that it is close-knit, and we do understand that we actually need each other. And you see those examples in the various charities in town, and we just talked about first responders and a lot of other great examples, different civic organizations and so on. And I hope people never lose that when you're counting how many shoe stores are in La Crosse. Don't forget that the volunteer firefighters showed up to save your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Mayor Todd. I was thinking about it, your predecessors, mayors from the past, I think every different term has seen their share of maybe challenges and things like that, maybe unique challenges. But, thinking of the 70s and 80s, were there challenges that are similar or a lot different than these days in Richland Center?
So we'll stick to fire. The firefighters will tell you that back in the day, they dealt with a lot more chimney fires. Mm-hmm. People burning wood and didn't keep the chimney clean or whatever happened, and they had to fire. They had a lot of that. That's not common anymore. What we're getting there, and just sticking to fire, a lot more things I mentioned, lift assist, traffic accident, but grass fires, my goodness. So when's the last time you heard of a drought in the middle of winter? And we had one. What in the world? Well, we did, and then we had high wind, over and over again. Don't burn anything, and people just didn't heed the advice, which is really frustrating. So don't burn, by the way, means don't burn. Those aren't big words, folks. And when you do, you're literally putting lives in danger, because if it takes off, it could kill you, and you're going to ask volunteers essentially to come out there and save you. Now, they're at risk. Not happy with some of that from this last winter, but the point is, I saw some fear, guys, in the eyes of a couple of firefighters when they were telling me 57-mile-an-hour winds pushing an out-of-control brush fire across the township road into the next field. Things they'd never saw before, because it was that dry and it was that windy. So, by the way, that was never saw before. And these are people that have been maybe 25 years on the fire department. So, yeah, conditions have changed. Having to get out there and deal with things they didn't. But they just shifted. No chimney fires way down, grass fires up, especially when the wind's blowing. Things like that. We talked about who had to talk about how do you fight an electric car fire 20 years ago.
Right.
It's different. It's very, very different, and we need Scott down here. We need Scott Gall down here.
He'll be down here in a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, have him explain not just the economics, but the different approach to putting out a fire in a gasoline-powered vehicle versus electric. It's not all about money. It's what you have to do differently, and then that means everybody involved needed new training. Right? You can't do it the same way. So all new training. And, police, and I hate this. There were instances in the past where our police were at risk because someone was shooting at them. And they called in an armored vehicle from Vernon County because there wasn't one here. Number one, it just should discuss that. Anybody, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care how tall you stand. It should disgust you that our police need an armored vehicle. But when they're out and being outgunned and shot at by somebody who's obviously mentally unbalanced, and they're hiding wherever they can while they wait for the vehicle they need to get to them, that happened. So we bought one, and we got it on the cheap. Don't start on me. It was surplus from the federal government, jointly owned by the city and the county. We bought it for a pittance. I can't remember right now. We either paid a total of $500 for it or a total of $1,000. And there's a local mechanic, Mr. Mike Renish, who is a military veteran and does the maintenance on it. So don't worry, it's covered. But what the message is, that wasn't necessary when Phil and myself were kids, even young adults. It is now. It just is now. We have a police officer in the high school. I graduated from an open campus. We left every day at lunch. Doors were never locked. Didn't have to be. Can't do that anymore.
Sure.
So things police deals with that that they didn't. 30, 40 years ago, those things weren't going on. And then over at EMS, they've got a variety. We live in a community with multiple nursing homes, right? And a memory care and all of that. So they deal a lot with elderly people here, in addition to everything else they do. But they do a lot of that, and we've reached a point now, mutual aid. So police helping fire helping EMS. small town, everybody be on the same team. And lift assist, it comes up over and over and over again. Maybe an elderly person, whatever the issue, they've fallen. They have some kind of physical issue, or it doesn't have to be elderly, but that's common. Can't get up. Some of our EMT, if there's any challenge in the structure, or if the person's a little larger person, whatever, they need help moving them. I don't think that was as common in the past. I had neighbors who were EMTs, multiple, as a kid, and I never heard them talk about issues with this and difficulties. But then you want a positive and just a great example of how things can evolve. When I'm a kid, if you're having a heart attack here, you're in an ambulance going 100 miles an hour trying to get to Madison, and now you're in a helicopter. My sister had a heart attack about a year and a half ago, and I think it took 22 minutes to get her to Madison, where a surgical team was waiting in the OR at St. Mary's, waiting for her. This is just unbelievable. My mother and I were on the way down to see Lori, and we don't know what we're going to find. This is really a heart attack. And off she went in the helicopter, and I loaded Mom in my vehicle, and we headed that way. We were in Black Earth, still driving to Madison, when my sister called us to say she was out of surgery. They'd not only loaded her on a helicopter, they'd flown her to Madison, landed her, took her to the OR where a team was waiting, ran the angiogram, there's the blockage, boom, do the stent, 1, 2, 3, in a room she goes. Lori's phone number calls my mom. I could see it by the look on my mother's face. She thought Lori might have died. She's thinking this is medical staff, because there's no, what else would you think? We're only in Black Earth, still driving down. And my sister's very tired, weakened voice said, "I'm all done, I'm in a room," which Mom put on speaker. I almost pulled over. I mean, we're both just dumbfounded. And that was reality. We weren't there. I'm in Black Earth. And she's not only down there, her surgery's completed, and she's in her own room. That's today, and that was not 1985. So there you go, right? So there we go. Let's work these guys in, because they earned it every day too, have earned it every day. How about the Richland Hospital, who in that instance saved my sister's life, and everybody as a team, the med flight crew and everybody down at St. Mary's in Madison that was part of that too. Can't do that without a local hospital, can you?
No. Yeah, the technology for them and EMTs and fire and police, fire, you can, infrared or whatever that is, you can see fires in walls and things like that.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a little selfish here before we get off the air, because I know somebody out there is listening to the show. So, hi, Mom. Jeannie Coppernoll, the best role model I've ever had. And why am I doing that? Because round 4 of my mom's chemo is this week, and my mom has been fearless and just the best attitude ever. And she's out there telling everybody what a miracle this all has been, and how great she's been treated by everyone at the Richland Hospital and in Madison at UW. And she's convinced that she's cured. Time's going to tell that, but she's been told at this point she's cancer-free. That's what the chemo's for, to try to finish that job, and then you just let time pass and you check it time to time, and that's just reality. But right now she's cancer free, and we don't need the full story, but wow. I mean, a 10-hour surgery, and then it will be all this with chemo and what it does to you. And my mother is just fearless about it and grateful and convinced that she's been saved. And I don't know, Mom, if I embarrass you, too bad. You did that to me a lot when I was a kid. But this is my mom, and it took me a while to get to where I could say these words without breaking down. And I don't know if I can now, and I don't care. Emotions don't scare me. If I lose it on the air, I don't even care. We were down in Madison before chemo, after the surgery, for the follow-up with the surgeon at UW. And this little Asian lady, a brilliant surgeon, came in to talk to Mom. Now, my mother is a retired teacher. She's a natural-born educator, and she's going through cancer. She's a little nervous, a little energized, and the surgeon is telling her things about how the surgery went and what to expect next. And my mom, because she's an educator, is teaching her other things. She just isn't saying okay or yes, she's saying other things, informative things, back to the surgeon. And I'm smiling at this exchange, and I finally said to the surgeon, if you can't tell, Mom was a teacher. She's a natural-born educator. I don't think she can help herself from doing that. And she said, I can tell. And my mother said, I know I've been saved, but I wasn't so sure a few weeks ago. And I decided when I cross over, I'm going to stand right there to make sure everyone else knows the way.
Wow. A good note to end on, man.
That's my mom.
Yeah.
So, Mom, I know you're listening, and you're my hero. Keep going.
Lead on. Mayor Todd Coppernoll, our guest today on the morning show from WRCO-FM and Richland Center. We'll have more coming up tomorrow.